Hey fans, this is Pat Combs, former Phillies left-handed pitcher, and you're listening to Sports and Rants.
And we are back. This is Sports and Rants with Brett and Pants. I'm your host, Brett Suto, and my host, Glenn Pantalone. And we are on live right now with Lars Anderson. Lars, how are you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing great, guys. Thanks for having me on again.
Yeah, thanks for joining us.
We got the bio out of the way last time you called in. And
so now it's time to get into real sports stuff.
We talked about your career in the major leagues.
With the Red Sox.
Yeah.
So, Lars, have you been keeping up with the series at all? The Mets are now down 2-0. What do you think's the experience like in the locker room right now?
Well, I mean, I can't imagine that it is they're 2 down. You know, I don't think that the situation affords that, and I mean those guys are professionals. So I think maybe there's a back against the wall feeling, which can often really benefit a team where they're kind of having to band together and fight. But you know, at most there's 5 games left, so I'm sure they're in there and probably sticking to their routine, and I don't think there's much panic, you know.
Now,
if you're making it that far, anybody who makes it that far believes that they can win, you know. So,
do you think it's going to be more of the team looking each day, each game ahead, or do you think they're now looking, oh, maybe we can turn this around and try to win in 7 games or 6 games, or do you think they're just taking it each game?
I think, if I had to guess, I would say that there's a real feeling of immediacy in the Mets locker room, like 1 game at a time. And I think the dangerous part for the Royals could be thinking like, wow, we can win the World Series, you know, and getting far ahead. Because I think probably what has made them successful is being in the moment and playing each pitch like it's the most important thing in the world, and now they're 2-0. But when you get a lead, sometimes, you know, you start looking ahead and looking for the end of the tunnel, and that's when it gets a little bit dicey.
Now, one thing that you got to experience in the locker room with the Red Sox was that veteran leadership. You were in the locker room with guys like David Ortiz. What do you think somebody like David Wright is saying right now to the Mets to try to keep these young guys, especially that pitching staff, comfortable with this series?
I don't know David Wright personally. I don't know his personality. I do know that baseball is not a very rah get together and have team meetings kind of sport. You know, I can probably count on 2 hands the amount of like team meetings where the whole team is involved, talks in the locker room my whole career. You know, it doesn't happen very often. It usually happens in the middle of the season when you're on a 10-game losing streak and you kind of have to shore some things up. So, I mean, I don't think he's saying much at all. I think they're probably going about the routines the way they have all year and just, you know, trying. Baseball is such an individual game. You know, it's not. It's a collection of individuals coming together and making individual plays in a team construct, you know. So you're trying to get your swing right, you're taking your balls, hitting. There's not like plays you're working on. It's not like football where you have to, you know, execute plays together. You're doing what you can to do your own job, you know. So I think that's probably where they're at.
Well, the one thing that I kept bringing up on our show is the Mets seem to want to just ride their pitching staff into this World Series and try to win off that. In your opinion, do you think it's more of the pitching staff or the offense that needs to get going to win games, especially in the World Series? We see guys step up on the offensive side, but right now with the Mets, we haven't seen anyone step up pitching.
Well, yeah, so the Mets pitching has kind of let them down, right? I think Familia gave up the game-tying homer in the first game in the ninth, and then DeGrom gave up a bunch of runs in the 4th or 5th inning last game. So that's kind of uncharacteristic for them. And it's too bad because for me it makes sense that the guys struggle in the playoffs offensively. One, it's cold weather, and that really affects hitting a lot. And also, guys aren't used to playing 2 days and not playing the third day. Guys are used to playing 7 days a week. And when you're playing 7 days a week during the season and you have a day off, the next day is always a little bit funky, and your timing is always a little bit off. And even like those guys had a bunch of days off after the league championship series. And every year when I come back from the All-Star break, which is 3 days off, which I think they had, it is like you feel like you haven't played baseball since September or December. You know, it's like I don't even know which way to hold the bat. Am I left-handed or right-handed? You know, it's like you have to like relearn it. You know, it's like you have a stroke or something. And so it's like I can see why teams struggle in the playoffs. You know, it makes total sense to me. So, but the pitching thing is, it's unfortunate that it's kind of let them down up to this point. So I'm sure they're trying to get that squared away.
Well, you brought up an interesting point. That's another thing that we've stressed on our show is, in reality, playing baseball on Halloween in October, almost November, isn't really showcasing the best teams and the most talent of these teams because of the cold weather, because guys aren't used to playing in this all year round. In your opinion, do you think maybe baseball should move maybe earlier postseason or something like that?
I mean, honestly, the fairest way to do this would be to adopt the soccer rules where there are no playoffs. So, like, take the English Premier League. You get 3 points for a win, 1 point for a draw, 0 points for a loss. And whoever accrues the most points at the end of the year is the winner. And for me, that's the fairest way to determine the best team, right? Like, last year, for example, the Giants sneak into the second wild card team, go to Pittsburgh, beat them, get hot, win the World Series. They were probably the 10th best team in the playoffs. You know, and that's really a fun story, and it's fun for fans to watch the playoffs. I get that, and I don't think it'll ever go away. But to me, the fairest way to determine who the best team is the team that's the best team for 162 games, and that would be for the point system to have an effect, or to be in effect. But I mean, I think there would be nothing wrong on the players' level to move the playoffs up. It's so late, and I mean, they make so much money off of it, though, that I think it'll be hard for Major League Baseball to change it, unfortunately. But I think if the players had their way, they would like to finish the playoffs a couple weeks earlier for sure.
Definitely from the business aspect, it wouldn't be productive for MLB to do it. But let's take this even further. With this idea, would you even consider having two different American League and National Leagues, or would everyone be in the same umbrella?
To make it into the playoffs?
No, just without the playoffs and just doing a point system.
Oh, yeah. Everybody would be under the same umbrella, I guess. Or you could do it where the top two teams. Yeah, I mean, so you could have like a World Series. The top two teams, the top team from the National League that plays the top team from the American League in the 7-game series. And then you cut out the one wild card game, you cut out the first wild card series, you cut out the league championship, or you cut out the ALD or divisional series, and you cut out the league championship series.
I guess this whole idea really stems off of the break period the teams have, whether it's only having 2 games at a time instead of 3, or having the 3-day break before the series. What are some things as a player you go through to stay active and to not forget about which way to hold the bat or something like that?
Well, I've been involved in a few like minor league playoff situations where you have some downtime, and we would have pitchers throw, but usually during the season when pitchers throw bullpens, there's nobody hitting against them. And we would bring them out onto the field and put them behind an L screen, and we would take at bats against them. Because I mean, it's for a hitter, just taking BP really isn't enough. they're throwing the ball 50 miles an hour. The coaches are, and they're like 60 years old sometimes. So it's a little different than Matt Harvey. And so I think that's really like the defense stuff is fine. You don't. That's not an issue, but it's really the hitting, the timing, and feel of the box, and it's taking time away from that can really throw you off for a little bit.
Now, in your opinion, do you ever see maybe the Major League Baseball moving to, like the NFL, a neutral site for the World Series, a warm place, maybe down in Florida or maybe California? Could you ever see that occurring?
No. And I think that, if you watch baseball during the regular season, the fans are pretty docile and it's pretty mellow, and I think it's pretty fun to watch how into it the fans get for September or for October. And I think that would be a shame to take that away from them. I don't think it would be like that at a neutral site. That's one of the benefits of it being like that. But I don't think we get the best product the way it's set up for the playoffs. I really don't. I think if it was right after the season and two teams played 7 games and there were no days off for those games, I think that would be the best product.
Well, Lars, you're not only a big baseball guy, but you also love yourself some football. So we got to know, you talked to us a little bit off air about this. How's the fantasy team doing this year?
It was pretty good so far. I don't want to count my chickens before they hatch, but it's been fun, man. It's a fun little thing. It makes otherwise meaningless games meaningful if you have guys going in. But it's fun. It's fun to use that part of my baseball world knowledge of like looking for guys that I think are valuable and maybe other guys don't think are valuable, and I don't know, getting my Billy Bean on a little bit. So was cool. This is the first year that I've had like an uninterrupted draft where I've like been able to draft all the guys. Like last year, I had just gotten a smartphone for the first time and I didn't know how to like work the 4G stuff, so like I was on auto draft for a long time and I was freaking out. And I don't know, man. So yeah, this year's been really fun. It's cool. I play with usually a team will play, the team that you're on will have a team, and I have some friends back home in the league too, so it's pretty fun.
Now, we got to know, are you one of these guys that get very passionate about their fantasy team and kind of gets really into it, or are you more of the mellow, just casually watch the game fan?
No, I play too many sports to get that crazy about it. I mean, sometimes it's frustrating, but at the end of the day, I don't know. It's pretty silly in a lot of ways too, so I don't take it too far.
You use the analogy to watch your chickens hatch. What are some of the strategies you use while playing fantasy sports for that to actually happen? Like the growth of players or anything like that?
Say it again?
Like for a player in fantasy sports, it's sort of like the stock market is how their value goes up and down. Do you look at players that will... What are some of the strategies you look at when trying to pick up a player?
Yeah, for me, I like really just the top thing is for me to have guys that are going to touch the ball a lot. So like a guy might be really skilled, but they use 2 running backs, and those guys are cool, but some games they'll touch the ball only 8 times. I want the guy who's like the clear number 1, who's like might not be the most talented in the world, but like he's going to get the ball a lot. And if they move the ball to the 5-yard line, he's going to touch the ball twice. So that's kind of my strategy. And also, I think like different teams are more attractive offensively. Where like you might play the Packers' number 2 receiver because Aaron Rodgers is there and they're going to throw the ball 40 times and he's going to be efficient. Whereas you're never going to play the number 2 receiver on the Browns ever. So there's stuff like that like sometimes it's not even about the player necessarily, it's about another player on the team, like the quarterback or whatever. So or maybe the quarterback's really bad, so they're just going to feed the running back. I don't know, that sort of stuff.
Now, is there any in particular team that you root for that you're a big fan of?
So I grew up a 49ers fan. I grew up in the Bay Area and in Sacramento, and I was living in San Francisco when the Niners got really good, and with Alex Smith. And then the whole Alex Smith, Colin Kaepernick thing happened, and that just really soured my taste for the 49ers. I thought that was pretty shady, the way that they handled that whole thing. Because in sports, it's like kind of an unwritten rule that if a guy is playing well or has a starting job and he gets injured, when he comes back, he at least gets the opportunity to keep his job. And so what happened was Alex Smith was like the 5th-ranked quarterback in the league. The Niners were, 6-2 or 8-2, and he got a concussion against, I think it was Browns or something. And then so Colin Kaepernick started the next game and did really well. And then Alex Smith got healthy for the game after that, and he wasn't, even if they wanted Colin Kaepernick to get the job eventually, I still think they had to start Alex Smith. You're not supposed to lose your job because you got hurt. Like, once you're healthy again, it's kind of expected that you're given the opportunity to keep your job. So I think if I was running the organization, I would have handled that situation differently. I would have, at least when he got healthy, at least let him start that game, and then after the game or during the game say, hey, we're going to go with Colin. We think he gives us a better shot to win. But he just stayed on the bench the rest of the year. And so that really soured my taste towards the 49ers, unfortunately. And, it was interesting living in the city when that was all going down, because my opinion was not a popular one, but it seems to, I don't know, I hate to say I told you so, but that's kind of where we're at now. And so I've always really dug watching the Patriots play, so I kind of root for the Patriots, which is ironic that I'm complaining about the way that that the 49ers handled their business. But, I don't know. Life is full of paradox, I suppose.
Well, that's something I actually agree with you about, the whole Colin Kaepernick, Alex Smith issue. And it was kind of upsetting to see them just basically throw Alex Smith to the side like that. And now we're seeing that basically with the Cowboys, too, with their Joseph Randle situation. He got hurt last game, and instead of letting him come back, they basically just said Darren McFadden's the new starting running back. And as an athlete, to see this this happens a lot in sports. To see this happen and occur, do you have like a strong opinion about it? If it were to happen to you, what reaction would you have to it?
Basically you just want to be treated fairly and like an adult, and have the team be honest with you. For me, if you're the guy and you get hurt and you work really hard to get healthy again, you should at least be given an opportunity to be a part of it still. Now, like, say Darren McFadden goes out and runs for 200 yards and a touchdown, and the day that Joseph Randle is hurt, then, if I'm Joseph Randle, I'm expecting to lose some playing time to him, because he played well, right? It's like, okay, that guy played well, he deserves to have a piece. But it's not like Joseph Randle should be totally, like, shunned and not played anymore, because, it's not like he didn't play because he wasn't playing well. He didn't play because he got injured, and he was playing hard for your organization. So that's what you expect from a player, and when they come back, it shouldn't be like they're a leper or something and you can't touch them. I've always felt that. The most worthless I've ever felt at a baseball field is when I've been on the disabled list, and you're just like, you can't play and you're walking around there, and just getting treatment. You feel like so worthless. It's really a bad feeling.
To go actually more into that, what's like the psyche of a player that you're seeing? You're basically your competition, even though it is your teammate. He is your competition as well, taking over your job, and you're sitting there, like you said, worthless. You can't do anything about it because maybe you have a bad hamstring or a bad shoulder. What thoughts run through your head, and how do you handle a situation like that to keep playing? And then is there a little frustration coming back? Maybe you struggle a little bit and you're not as good as you were before the injury.
Yeah, or you come back too early, it's like you see the guy taking your spot and kind of, you're turning into Wally Pip or something. It's like, like you might hurry back or press when you get back. You press a little bit. Baseball is a little different in that regard because there's eight starters that are position players. And there's only usually 3 or 4 guys on the bench in those roles. So it's not usually when you come back and you're a starter again. But it's really hard, man. I mean, guys handle it differently. It's frustrating for guys. It's, the body, some of those, like, especially the soft tissue injuries, hamstrings, quads, those things are so delicate, and it's, you want to get back as fast as you can. You have coaches encouraging you. Sometimes you have, like, I had a friend who had a hurt shoulder, and he needed time off, but they told him, hey, you're, we got a couple guys down in the big leagues, and we need you to get back so that you might be in the mix. They told him that, and he rushed back, and it was just not right, and he really struggled. So there's a lot of different moving parts with injuries, and there's no sure way to go about it, in my opinion.
Now, to get more into depth about the football season, you say you're a Patriots fan as well, and the Patriots had a great game last night. They're still undefeated. Do you think they can hold on and stay undefeated the entire season?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I don't know if it's likely, but I wouldn't be surprised at all in the same breath. The thing that I really dig about football, I guess I dig a lot of things about it, but the thing that really is pretty cool is what kind of effect a coach has on the team. Like they really play a big part, I think, more so than maybe any other sport, in the game plan and how they attack a team. And it's watching Bill Belichick work over the years and seeing what he does and how much success he has with how fluid their personnel is. It's just like patchwork over there. It seems like there's just different faces every year, with the exception of Tom, and it's really like, dude, the guy's a magician. He makes it work. He totally outcoaches the other teams, and I'm in awe of it sometimes. Like, if a team is good against the run, then they throw the ball 50 times. If a team is good against the pass, and they just pound the ball. It's like, it's simple and smart and effective, and I wouldn't be surprised if they were undefeated at the end of the year. No, not at all.
Now, you just mentioned the great relationship between the head coach, Belichick, and Tom Brady. Another undefeated team that we're not seeing that's such a great relationship is between Peyton Manning and Gary Kubiak. Do you have any opinion of that? Because Peyton seems to want to call his own plays, and Kubiak wants to be that head coach. So how much of the relationship do you think will affect the season?
Yeah, it'd be fun to be inside that locker room, see what's really going on. I don't know. It's just tough to speak on that. I mean, obviously you have a better shot if the team is all united and as one. And sometimes teams can win in in spite of the coach or to spite the coach, kind of like banding together against the coach. I don't know if that's the case there, but I know that's been the case in other teams. But I mean, man, both those guys have been in football a long time. I'm sure it's hard to if you think your way is the best, it's hard to put that away and just say, okay, I'll do it your way, especially when both guys have been successful. It'd be hard for me to tell Peyton Manning how to run the show. I don't know, man. I want that guy to be comfortable and do what he wants to do.
Well, here in Philadelphia, we're dealing with an Eagles team that one week shows up and the next week doesn't.
Yeah.
Have you had a chance to look at these guys at all? Because we're starting to get frustrated here, especially with Chip Kelly.
Yeah. What are the specific frustrations for you guys?
I would say the most part is the quarterback situation with Sam Bradford. He was brought in to be this big name guy that's gonna change the way the Eagles play and make them a Super Bowl contender, and we haven't seen that yet. And our wide receivers don't seem to want to catch the football.
Well, that's an issue. Yeah, I know that ever since he's got there's been a lot of hype and promise. I remember that first game when I think Michael Vick was the quarterback and they just ran all over, I think, the Redskins a few years ago.
Yeah, Monday night.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember the tricks after that. I don't know, man. I mean, I haven't watched it. I watched a little bit of that game against the Giants a couple weeks ago, but I haven't seen them enough to really have a specific take on it. But football is intense. If you don't have success, it gets magnified, especially with the amount of hype that Chip Kelly kind of brings onto himself. I'm sure it's frustrating for you guys.
Do you think, from your perspective, what do you think about Chip Kelly? Do you think he enjoys the amount of attention that he gets on himself and the team just because he's there and he moved from Oregon to Philadelphia?
It doesn't seem like it bothers him that much. I think he probably enjoys it, but I don't know. I don't know what he's about. I heard him say that he thinks Sam Bradford is playing really well, and just kind of sounded like a guy who was either not really dealing with reality or didn't want to admit that there are issues and problems. And he's pretty responsible, right? He made that trade for him, and he has a lot of control over personnel now. So it's I don't know. Football is not really a place where you can say, I was wrong about this. It's not really the climate of football. So, there's so much smoke and mirrors in those press conferences. It's just
yeah, definitely. And like you mentioned, the big thing with Chip Kelly was he wanted to control player personnel. In your opinion, in any sport, do you think the coach should have control over the player personnel, or should it be a general manager that's bringing in the guys? What's your thoughts on that?
I think it needs to be a marriage. I think both guys need to be on the same page, and if they're not on the same page, be able to have a healthy enough relationship to have a good discussion about it and try to reach some common ground. But there's a lot of resources out there for the general manager and his scouting department and player development department that the head coach needs to be like kind of with the team and working in that realm too. So if you're stretched really thin, it's going to suffer a little bit. So I don't think it should be a total one person has all of it or the other person has all the power. I don't think that's healthy.
Well, to change subjects a little bit, still in the football realm, the big issue that we see in the NFL and we see with veteran players is concussions. What are your thoughts on the whole concussion issue as an athlete? Baseball players get concussions a lot as well. So what are your thoughts, and is the NFL handling it the right way?
Well, I mean, I think the NFL is making an effort to save public face and stay popular with young people. You know, you see the campaigns they do. Do I think like the NFL really cares that much about players' health? Not as much as they care about making a profit, I don't think. Just like the steroid thing and with the commissioner, you know, back in the day with baseball, you know, and you know, it's like they act appalled that guys are using steroids, but it's really turned a blind eye to it after the strike and kind of in my opinion, it was encouraged to get baseball popular again. So I don't think player health is ever, you know, the NFL is not, the players aren't their responsibility. The Roger Goodell's responsibility is to the owners and making a profit. So I think like they are raising awareness about concussions, but I don't know if they're doing it really because they care that much about NFL players. I think they're probably doing it because they're afraid of the existence of football, especially for young kids starting to play football who will be NFL players in 20 years. You know, what's that going to be like? Are parents going to keep letting their kids play football with all this stuff coming out? I don't know. I mean, I think I have a hard time letting my kid play football. Is it really worth it? I don't think so. So I think it's a perilous time because football is so popular. You know, it's such a monster in this country, and it's such good entertainment, and it's produced so well. But it's, you know, there's a new level of consciousness about brain health, and I think a lot of parents are pretty wary to putting their kids in that situation.
Well, that was actually an interesting perspective that you took, comparing this whole concussion thing with the idea of steroids in baseball and how they kind of encouraged it. We never really hear athletes talk about general managers and ownership as well as the league office as much as you have. In your opinion, you said that they're basically focused on making money, and that's the aspect of the game.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on just leagues as a whole, and do you think maybe they should be looking out more for the players?
I don't know. I mean, like, ideally, yes, but I also understand that their responsibility is to run a business, you know? And it's our responsibility to take care of ourselves and take care of, you know, ourselves financially or our families financially or whatever, you know, or take care of our own health. It's not really their responsibility to do that, you know, but it's just hard for me to believe that they are so concerned with player health, because I don't really expect them to be, and that's fine, you know. But I feel like sometimes it's a little bit disingenuous, in my opinion.
Now, one thing we really like to talk about on our show is what players and athletes do for the community. And how important do you think that is for NFL, MLB guys, NBA, NHL, to get out in the community to help out? Maybe it's a struggling neighborhood. Maybe it's even an elementary school that they went to or a high school. How important do you think that is for athletes to get involved to show that you can one day play professional sports?
I think it's a pretty good thing to do. Just a little story about my childhood. I grew up next to a Waldorf school, which is K through 11, and it's a small Division V private school. And, you know, some years they have a baseball team, some years they don't. But when I was a little boy, I used to go down and watch their baseball games. And I remember being so nervous to go ask them for an autograph, I had to ask my mom to go ask these high school kids to sign my ball. And so, and once they talked to me, it just, you know, made my day. You know, this is at a school that sometimes, like I said, sometimes on the baseball team, if there's enough guys to do it, and sometimes doesn't. So you can imagine when, you know, David Ortiz walks into your hospital room.
Yeah.
It's going to change your day a little bit, right? So I think it's a cool thing, man. I like that their programs, and in the major leagues they do really, they have people running stuff like that and make it really easy for the players to get involved and kind of arrange transportation and stuff like that, and it's a good thing.
All right, Lars, before we let you go, because we're pushing up against the clock, we want to hear what you're doing recently since the season's over.
Yeah, man, it's been a really good off season so far. I've had a couple friends come and visit me. I've been doing a little traveling on my own. I'm actually showing a friend around California right now, so I'm traveling a little bit right now. And then I'm gonna go hang with my brother in Hawaii in the middle of November. He lives out there, and I've been training. I've hit once and been lifting and throwing frisbee and fun stuff, man. It's been nice out here.
Well, Lars, with the beautiful weather going to Hawaii, it sounds like you're living a life right now. So thank you for joining us today. We really appreciated your time.
Yeah, thanks a lot, guys. It was a lot of fun for me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and we'll definitely have you on again. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
This is Brett Suto from the hit sports show Sports and Rants with Brett and Pants. Listen to us live every Friday from 12 to 2 to hear some tremendous interviews such as Troy Vincent, Billy Cunningham, Keith Jones, Frank Coonelly, and DeAndre Bembry. Follow us on Twitter at Sports and Rants and like us on Facebook, Sports and Rants with Brett and Pants. Check us out today.